The shift had dragged longer than I expected, but I was finally on my way home. The route was familiar, winding through stretches of forest and farmland before reconnecting to the main highway. The kind of drive that felt peaceful on good nights, eerie on others. Tonight leaned heavily toward the latter. It started when I noticed the gas tank dipping low, lower than I thought it should. I hadn't planned to stop, but the gauge was nearly on empty, and I knew I wouldn't make it home without refueling. A quick check of the GPS pointed me to a small station just a few miles off the main road. When I pulled in, the place looked abandoned. Only one flickering overhead light illuminated the pumps, casting strange shadows that seemed to stretch and shift unnaturally. The station itself was a squat brick building, its windows dark. No sign of people inside. I debated driving on, but the gas needle hovered dangerously close to E. Grudgingly, I got out and swiped my card at the pump. As I stood there, nozzle in hand, I became acutely aware of the silence. No crickets, no wind, not even the hum of distant cars. Just the faint sound of the gas flowing into the tank. That's when I noticed them. At first, it was just a figure, barely visible in the dim light beyond the pumps, standing still, watching, and I told myself it was probably just someone else stopping for gas. But as I finished filling the tank, I realized there were more of them. 3, maybe 4, stepping out from the edges of the dark. Their movements were slow, deliberate, almost unnatural. I couldn't make out their faces in the faint light, but they wore dark clothes, their heads tilted slightly, as if curious or calculating. My hands shook as I jammed the nozzle back into the pump and climbed into my car. The engine started, and I floored it, tires screeching as I sped back onto the road. I didn't dare look back until I was miles away. Relief washed over me as the forest began to thin, giving way to familiar landmarks. But just as I started to relax, something darted across the road ahead. A flash of movement too fast to be human. I slammed the brakes, the car skidding to a stop. My headlights illuminated the road, but it was empty. Whatever I'd seen was gone. I sat frozen, gripping the wheel, my pulse pounding in my ears. And then I saw them again. This time, they were closer. Standing just beyond the tree line, their faces finally visible in the glare of the headlights. Blank. White. Masks with no features, staring back at me with a chilling stillness. They didn't move, but the air grew heavier, colder. I could feel their gaze even as I tried to convince myself they couldn't be real. My mind screamed to drive, but my body wouldn't obey. A knock on the passenger window jolted me, shattering the spell. I turned, but no one was there. Just the faint fog of breath on the glass. My foot found the gas pedal and I sped off, heart racing, eyes glued to the road. I didn't stop until I reached the safety of my driveway. It all started on a quiet night, after a long and joyful birthday party. My girlfriend and I were heading back home. The party was at her family's farmhouse, way out in the outskirts of the city, surrounded by nothing but eerie silence. The road was deserted. No cars, no lights, just endless darkness stretching out before us. I was driving, and she was sitting beside me. The quiet of the night was unsettling, so we had some music playing, but it didn't help much. To make things worse, I was struggling to stay awake. My eyes felt heavy, and it was getting harder to focus on the road. Sensing this, my girlfriend kept trying to keep me engaged, talking to me non-stop to keep me awake. But my attention was fixed on the pitch-black road ahead. And then, it happened. Out of nowhere, I saw something. A figure. A young girl standing in the middle of the road. I slammed the brakes, but it was too late. The car screeched to a halt, and my heart sank. I stepped out, trembling, to see what had happened. That's when I saw it. Lying there, lifeless, was half of a girl's body. Just the upper half, her head and torso. Her lower half was gone. My mind couldn't process what I was seeing. For a moment, I thought it was my fault. Had I hit her? Had I done this? But then I looked around and saw there was no blood on the road, no sign of an accident. Nothing made sense. Terrified, I rushed back into the car, started it, and drove off as fast as I could. My girlfriend sat silent, her face pale with fear. But just as I thought we were leaving that nightmare behind, I looked into the rearview mirror. My blood turned cold. There she was, the same girl. The upper half of her body was crawling after us. Her eyes locked onto mine. She was fast, impossibly fast. Then, in the blink of an eye, she vanished. I didn't say a word. My girlfriend didn't see it, but the fear in her eyes told me she felt something. We drove on, desperate to reach home, but the horror wasn't over. As we neared a turn, I saw it again. Her legs, just her legs, walking across the road, as if searching for the rest of her body. I couldn't take it anymore. I floored the gas and sped past, refusing to stop. But as we passed, the upper half of her body appeared again. This time, on the windshield. Her face pressed against the glass, staring at me with hollow eyes. I panicked and swerved. The car lost control, flipped over, and landed on the roadside. The last thing I saw before losing consciousness was the headlights of a speeding truck barreling toward us. And then, darkness. I woke up 2 days later in a hospital bed. My body ached, but the pain in my heart was worse. The doctors told me they couldn't save my girlfriend. She didn't make it. I shared the entire story with a friend, hoping to make sense of it all. But instead, I was met with silence, and a question that still haunts me. Was it really an accident, or was it something more sinister? This is not about a creepy story or a supernatural event. Instead, I'm diving into something far darker, a horrifying reality that, if you truly think about it, is much creepier than any ghost tale. What makes it worse? It's something we've all unknowingly been a part of. Something that's happening because of us. Let's talk about the Balenciaga scandal. Not the rumors, not the controversies that pop up online, but the chilling truth. If you've ever scrolled through social media, you might have seen celebrities or influencers talking about burning Balenciaga products or boycotting the brand entirely. Maybe you thought, what's the big deal? But trust me, when you uncover the layers, you'll see why this isn't just about fashion or a bad PR campaign. It's about something sinister, something that connects to deeper, darker forces at play in our world. In 2022, Balenciaga launched a holiday campaign. It looked innocent enough at first glance. But when people started analyzing the photos, they found something disturbing. The campaign featured children holding teddy bears dressed in bondage outfits. Yes, you heard that right. Bondage. Leather straps, harnesses, and all. And it didn't stop there. The backgrounds in these photos included strange props. Flasks that looked like they belonged at a bar, adult items subtly placed near children, and a vibe that left people deeply uncomfortable. One photo showed a little girl holding a bag shaped like a teddy bear, its face twisted with straps and chains. Another image featured a child lying on a couch, with a glass of alcohol placed right next to her. These were no accidental details. Every item, every prop was deliberately placed. But why? As this campaign blew up online, people began connecting dots. And what they found was even more terrifying. In another Balenciaga campaign, there was a document lying in the background. At first, it seemed random. But when zoomed in, the document referenced a court case about child abuse imagery. Yes, you heard that correctly. A campaign featuring kids had a hidden reference to a court case involving exploited minors. Then came another discovery. Books and art pieces featured in these shoots were connected to deeply disturbing themes. One book, titled Fire from the Sun, contained artwork of children depicted in horrifying ways. Missing limbs, crying faces, and grotesque imagery. This wasn't just dark, it was downright evil. Another book featured in their campaigns referenced a known pedophile who openly admitted to harming his own granddaughter for years. Why would a luxury brand like Balenciaga include such disturbing items in their photo shoots? Some theorists argue that this isn't just about bad judgment or shock marketing. They claim Balenciaga is promoting something darker, satanic rituals. In one campaign, a bracelet on a child's teddy bear read, Baal, a name associated with an ancient demon tied to child sacrifices in some historical texts. While it's easy to dismiss such claims as conspiracy theories, the evidence keeps piling up. From the symbolism in their campaigns to the eerie props chosen for their photo shoots, it's clear that this wasn't accidental. Why would a global brand go to such lengths? Why use children, disturbing props, and hidden messages? It's almost as if they're taunting the public, daring us to notice. Balenciaga issued an apology after the backlash, pulling the campaign and blaming their marketing team. But they didn't explain the disturbing details. No accountability, just silence. The truth is, this isn't just about a single photo shoot or a controversial campaign. It's a reflection of something larger, an industry, a world where exploitation and darkness lurk beneath the surface. This scandal isn't just about Balenciaga. It's about us, the consumers, the society that lets things like this slide. We buy into these brands, unknowingly funding whatever twisted agenda lies beneath. If you think this is just another conspiracy, I urge you to look deeper. Read the articles, watch the footage, and ask yourself, why are these patterns repeating? Why do these dark connections keep surfacing? The next time you see a luxury brand, think twice about what you're supporting. Because behind the glitz and glamour, there's often a much darker truth. This story isn't about spreading fear. It's about awareness. The more we know, the harder it is for such atrocities to continue unnoticed. Stay informed, stay alert, and most importantly, don't be afraid to question the things we're told to accept as normal.